Hi everybody. Today we're going to talk about types of angles. Actually, we'll be reviewing types of angles. And we're going to talk about some angle relationships that you may or may not know. Let's start out by looking at the types of angles. So one type of angle is a right angle. And we've seen these before this year. A right angle equals 90 degrees exactly. It's a perfectly square corner. And it has that little symbol in the corner. If you see that, you know you have a right angle. You know it's got to be 90 degrees. Here's another type of angle that we've talked about this year, acute angles. And acute angles are any angles that are less than 90 degrees. So if you think about a right angle as being like this, an acute angle is anything that's less. So here's our right angle. If I start to close the door, all of these angles are acute angles. So acute angles are less than 90 degrees. We also have, let me scooch that up a little bit. We also have obtuse angles. And obtuse angles are any that are greater than 90 degrees, but less than 180. So remember that 180 degrees is a straight line. So an obtuse angle, here's my right angle again. Instead of closing the door to make an acute angle, I am opening the door, and all of these angles are obtuse angles. So as long as it doesn't open all the way up to be a straight line, between here and here is an obtuse angle. And as I just mentioned, the last type of angle that we have is a straight angle. And a straight angle simply means that we have they're actually rays that are so wide open like this that they have formed a straight line. So we call that a straight angle, and it equals exactly 180 degrees. So that's just a little review of types of angles. And now we're going to look at some angle relationships. And the first one that we are going to talk about is, and this is what you're ready to write down. So please write the words angle relationships at the top of your paper. And you're going to copy this phrase. Complementary angles. So just like when we say the word, for instance, twins, we know we're talking about two people. And when we say the phrase complementary angles, we know we're talking about two angles. So complementary angles are any two angles that add up to 90 degrees. So I have this angle right in here and this angle right in here. And together they are forming a square corner. So no matter what these two angles have a value of, they must add up to 90 degrees. So if this one is 35 degrees, what would the other one have to be? Well, it would have to be 90 minus 35. So the other angle must be 55 degrees. Let's look at another one. So again, when you see the symbol, you know that the angles are complementary angles. We have two angles that together add up to 90 degrees. So if this one right here is 10 degrees, the way we figure out the value of that one is to say, all right, if the total is 90, I'm going to subtract the part that is 10, and what I'm left with is 80. So I know that this angle right here must be 80 degrees. Complementary angles, they add to 90 degrees. In fact, let's add that in up here. Add to 90 degrees. Okay, one more pair. Let's look at a slightly different diagram. Sometimes it's hard to recognize things when they're turned a different way. So here's our right angle. is it possible that these two angles could be the same? Yes, it is. How would we figure that out? If both of these angles have the same value and we know they total 90 degrees, how could we figure out what their value is? In this case, I'm going to do 90 divided by 2, which would give me 45 degrees. So this one would be 45 degrees, and this one would be 45 degrees. So you should have all of this on your paper. Angle relationships, complementary angles add to 90 degrees. You should have this sample, and this sample, and this sample. So I should label these. Sample 1, sample 2, sample 3. Okay, so complementary angles. And the last type of angle relationship that we're going to look at today is what is called supplementary angles. So let's have you begin by writing the words supplementary angles. My writing's a little crooked. And supplementary angles add to, scooch this over, 180 degrees. So I'm going to draw a straight angle. And this will be sample number 4. So here's a straight angle. It equals 180 degrees. If I stick another ray in there, and I now have this angle and this angle, no matter what their measurements are, they must add up to 180 degrees. So let's say that this one is 75 degrees. What would the value of that one have to be? So we solved this almost the same way that we did with complementary angles. So we're going to start with 180 degrees that we know the total has to be. We can subtract the 75, and we are left with 105. So the measure of that angle is 105 degrees. Let's look at sample 5. And let's do it like this. So let's say that this angle right here is 164 degrees. What do we do up here to figure out the measurement of the other angle? We know that the total is 180. We know that that part is 164. So we're taking the 180, we're subtracting 164, and we learn that that angle measurement is 64 degrees. If you can't fit the number in here, you can always do this. Supplementary angles. It is two angles that add up to 180 degrees. Let's do one more. So this will be sample number 6. So is it possible that two supplementary angles could have the same value? Those look like they're pretty equal. What would be the value of each angle if those angles are congruent, if they have the same measure? We can figure this out just like we did with the two complementary angles that were congruent. We can take the total of 180 degrees, we can divide it by 2, and therefore we learn that each angle must be 90 degrees. So this one is 90 degrees, and this one is 90 degrees. So that's it. Let's do a quick review. So complementary angles add to 90 degrees. So no matter what the two angle measurements are, they have to add up to 90. So this pair is complementary. Whoops, there we go. This pair is complementary, and this pair of angles are complementary angles. They add to 90 degrees. And with our supplementary angles, they add to 180 degrees. So those two angles add up to 180. That's why they're supplementary angles. These two angles add up to 180. That's why they're supplementary angles. And it was interesting that we could have two angles that have the same measure. As long as they add up to 180 degrees, we've got two supplementary angles. Okay, so your independent work for today is this. So your paper should show 6 samples, and now you're going to have 8 problems to work on. So you can see that the first 1, 2, 3, 4, let me cover up the other ones. These are complementary angles. So you know their total will be 90 degrees. At the bottom, you can see that these are supplementary angles. So you know that each pair of angles will add to 180 degrees. As always, drop me an email if you need a hand with this. I'll look forward to receiving your work, and I'll hope to see you soon. Take care, kids. Bye-bye.